Hello, everyone. Today we're going to go over one of the more advanced topics inside of ServiceNow's service mapping, and we're going to talk around the use of eval scripts inside patterns. Now, eval scripts themselves are not something that you typically use, but at times there are advanced use cases where you need to take your logic parsing into more of a script fashion than using some of the out-of-the-box parsing methods. Now, to get us started into this, to look at it, what we're going to do is we're going to actually go directly into the pattern table, and we are going to take a look at the backend NDL language of one of the patterns to kind of walk you through exactly how you can get some further examples with some of the out-of-the-box items that come shipped with service mapping. So the first thing that you need to know is when you go to the pattern table directly, it takes you to the native list view instead of a custom UI, which puts you into the pattern designer. And one of the key things here is it allows you to look at the pattern text itself. Now, every pattern, when you build it out and create it, it actually translates into certain pattern text in the background. And that pattern text can actually be searched, which is really, really useful when you're trying to come up with how to work with an advanced thing such as the eval scripts. So the first thing I'm just going to show here quickly is if you ever need to actually find an example to base what you want to do off of, you can actually come in here and search this. You can look for things like the eval word in here. And further to this, if there's certain methods inside the eval that you want to see examples of, you can actually further come in here and do specific keyword searches for things that you might actually be looking to do. In this case, if we want to find one that has the CTX.setAttribute, we can actually go ahead and search and look here. What we're going to do right now is I'm just going to quickly dive into a pattern that already has some of the eval script components in it. And I'm not going to walk through specifically what this pattern is trying to do, but I want to call out a few items that I think are really, really important for anyone who is going to go into a more advanced mode of trying to create a pattern to parse some complex data. The first thing I'm going to call out here is there's a bunch of different functions that are shipped with the pattern library. I'll show you a KB article at the end here that actually gives you some really good examples. But there's a few things that you're probably going to end up doing if you're going down a more advanced route. The first thing that we are going to look at here is how you actually represent tabular data. When you're doing normal parsing strategies, the backend code automatically does this for you. But when you're trying to do an eval script and you have to do it yourself, there's a few things you need to know. The first thing that you need to know is that what you're actually going to be creating is an array list with a bunch of rows of hash maps. So you can see an example here where it's actually trying to transform some data using an eval script. You can see that it builds out an array list here. And then for each row that it wants to put into that table to be parsed later on, it actually goes through and builds out a hash map. Now, a hash map really is just like a name value pair map that you end up returning into the array list. But the important thing is if you ever need sample code to look at to figure out how to do it for your use case, you can actually come in here and you can look at the code that's pre-existing in some of the patterns that come out of the box. Now, once you have this built out, you might be asking yourself, okay, how do I actually return this back to the pattern? And the magic of that is actually done using the CTX.setAttribute function. By using this, it allows you to return that array list back to the pattern library, and the pattern code in the backend will automatically convert it into a table variable that you'll be able to access within your pattern that you are building out. Now, this is really key because sometimes you have some very advanced use cases which will either be too much to use a parsing strategy on, or you'll have to pull from multiple different commands you're going to have to run, and it's just easier to do it within the script itself. So what's important here is that there are things that are out of the box. There is some documentation for this as well. So if you go into ServiceNow support and you search out this specific KB article, it actually gives you a lot of different examples of things that can be done using an eval script. It'll also give you some other functions that are passed into this as well that can be very, very useful for parsing your data, like deduplication and things like that. Lastly, I encourage anyone who's going to be going into these to actually go in and search the pattern library and the pattern text. You'll find some really great examples in there that'll probably help you figure out exactly what it is that you want to do and need to do.